about you, but I don't really mind the heat.
I am, yeah, I living here a long time, I've lived here a long time. I don't mind dry heat. I have my evaporative cooler going, and it does get a little, late in the afternoon when we hit 114 the other day when the sun is beating on the evaporative cooler, and it's just, but this is the time where we call it our winter time. We always tell the people in the Midwest, and obviously you coming from Chicago, this is our time we stay in for about 90 days.
It,
Usually the middle of June
exactly.
through the middle of September is where, a lot of people can always get a good seat at the restaurant. If you go shopping or you go to the mall or whatever, people are parking under the trees and they're walking farther to keep their car cooler.
Yeah, but when
So,
I go to the restaurant during the summer, believe it or not, I mean, I actually have to take a jacket, sweater with me because they keep the restaurant so cold, right?
yeah, they
So,
do. It's amazing, and this is the time that we always tell the local Phoenicians or people all over Arizona, get out and support your local restaurants because this is the time they do it. They make their money obviously from the fall and in the wintertime when the tourists are here, but in the summertime is when they really need all the help, and that's when we tell everybody to get out.
yeah. So, let's talk sports.
Yeah, so
we
we
got
let's
we got a lot to we got a lot to talk about.
there's a lot to talk about. We'll do a little overview in the Arizona sports, um, just a little bit briefly. Um, we'll go over the fact that just real brief. ASU did get a new AD. That was a couple of weeks ago, and I think uh, I'm a little surprised that ASU chose him, though they decided to stay in house. I think they did reach out to Rocky Harris. I know you don't know a lot about ASU. Rocky Harris was a local guy, and he's actually in charge of the Olympics right now. And he didn't want to do any interviewing while the Olympics was going on. He just decided that, obviously that's more important, which, give all the credit to him for that and let him do that. So, but Graham Rossini, he's a big baseball guy, so that'll hopefully help out the program.
Yeah.
So we have going on. We have the Diamondbacks, we have the Suns, we have the NBA Finals, which I wanted to ask you. Do you care about the NBA Finals right now? It's the Mavericks and the Celtics. Out here, everybody wants the Celtics to beat the Mavericks.
I have not watched a minute of playoff basketball this year, and I still will not watch a minute of playoff basketball, even in the finals. So,
It's just
hopefully, I answered for you.
no,
You know what? If the Suns were in it, of course I'd be watching it.
right.
But I guess I'm like everybody else. I'm a fan. I'm a local guy. I mean, if the Bulls were in it, of course I'd be interested. Let's just say this: I go back to the Michael Jordan days, like most people do, right? And I never missed a game that Michael Jordan ever played in. I don't, I, you know, It was either in person or on TV, but I never missed a minute because this guy would do something different every game that would make you shake your head.
Well, we're gonna do a little tease coming up because we're gonna, in the next segment, we're gonna talk a little about the NBA. Bob has agreed to allow me to go on to a few-minute rant about the Suns and everything. But we'll talk about the Diamondbacks. They're just kind of hanging around the 500 mark. They're a few games under 500 right now. This is time make or break for the Diamondbacks, as far as I'm concerned. I know everybody says there's still a lot of games. You're 64 games into the season. That's 98 games left to go. Some teams have 100 games to go. You got the White Sox, the Angels, and the A's are coming up, and these are games at home, and then you have the Nationals on the road. This is where they have to start to separate themselves. Is this team contenders or pretenders? And have they lost their identity? This Corbin Carroll thing has really, you and I have been mentioning, it's time to send him down to the minors. And like
Yeah.
as you and I talked offline, maybe they're waiting for everybody to get back. The Tigers sent down Spencer Torkelson back down to Triple A. He is lighting it up in AAA. Let Corbin Carroll go down to Reno, and everybody says, but Reno's the launching pad. Yeah, it is a launching pad. Why not let the guy gain his confidence and then bring him back up and let's see what he can do? So we'll touch on that a little bit. The Cardinals have mandatory mini camp starts now, the 11th through the 13th, and they're starting to see some position battles. Obviously, outside linebacker starting job, depth at linebacker, cornerback, safety, and even wide receiver. So this is a 3-day camp. Everybody will be there. Obviously, no pads before training camp opens. Usually, about the second week of July. I don't think they've really officially listed when all the teams are, going on. And then we'll talk a little bit about Florida Panthers, Edmonton Oilers. Are you even watching? You watching hockey at all?
I haven't watched hockey at all either. I've only been watching baseball, and I'm not seeing a lot of good things out of the teams that I follow.
Yeah, the thing with hockey and basketball is it too long? We had talked before. Maybe it's time to start basketball and hockey in November and then let it go through to the start of summer. If you started in late September, early October, Christmas Day, I guess, is the one that everybody's really talking about. But you could do even Thanksgiving and let it extend. Would people still be entertained? The diehard hockey fans, the Florida Panthers, they're trying, they're saying, hey, look, a Sun Belt team can win. Last year, runner-up, they lost. Edmonton, first time since 1993, we're looking for a Canadian team to win the Stanley Cup. So, when I think it was Toronto beat the LA Kings. I want to take you back a little bit. I was looking at a recent article about the Blackhawks. I did not know that the Blackhawks and the Maple Leafs do not like each other at all. I mean, I understand the Red Wings thing. And did you ever go to Old Chicago Stadium and watch the Maple Leafs and the Blackhawks? There was always a fight, and it just wasn't on the rink. It was in the stands. So what is it? Just because they're one of the original six, or was it Toronto winning Stanley Cups?
I don't really remember all that bad blood between Toronto and Chicago. I mean, I remember all the bad blood when the North Stars came into the league. Minnesota. There were bench clearing brawls. I mean, a number of times. It was great, but back then, fighting was really part of the game, and they've tried to get rid of the fighting now. Over the last, I'd say 10, 15 years, right? I mean, it isn't back, like the days when you had the Bob Proberts, right? And the Ty Domies and Al Secord, where these guys were the enforcers, and they would fight, and they would literally try to change the momentum of the game by winning a fight, So, and do I miss those days? Absolutely. To me, I love to go to the fight and a hockey game broke out. The thing is,
right.
But
and that's all sports. I mean, I'm sorry, we stick up for our generation.
Expansion.
Right.
Has killed the game per se and the quality of the game.
It is, and I was just going to mention to you, the NBA is talking about adding 4 teams. Major League Baseball keeps going back and forth about adding teams. Hockey is talking about expansion. The NFL is talking about expansion. They say there's more quality players out there that need it. But I'm with you. Our generation.
Do we need more teams like the White Sox? I mean, come on.
There's always going to be bad teams. But and we'll talk a little bit more about it as we talk. As we get into the show about MLB. But right now, parity seems to have caught up with Major League Baseball. Other than the Atlanta Braves, I mean, you got the Phillies are leading the East, the Dodgers in the West, the Brewers in the Central. for the wild card, the Braves are 35-26. They're the first wild card team. The second wild card team is the Padres, 33-34, and then the Cubs would be the last wild card team, 31-33, along with the Reds and Giants. So they're under 500. We were talking before the show.
The Cubs are still actually in the wild card hunt.
The Cubs would be the last wild card team. Well, it would, yeah. So to be playing in for it. So isn't that something? So the NFL's had teams with the wild card that are under 500. The NBA is notorious for that.
Yeah.
Even the NHL. So you're right, expansion. You're always going to have bad teams. You know, there's a couple of good teams in the NFL. There's a couple of good teams in basketball. And then you have the teams that are bunched together. And if you look at the teams that have gone to the World Series, the Phillies, the Diamondbacks, Astros, they've all been a wild card team. So are they getting hot at the right time? So that's the interesting thing. A lot of parity. You could even say, and that, you know, we're reaching because there's still 100 games left. The Miami Marlins and the Colorado Rockies are both 22-41, 19 games under 500. They're 8 games out of a wild card spot. If you're 10 games or more, you're considered out of the wild card spot. Now, theoretically, they're out of the wild card. Maybe even the Mets and the Nationals. So, but you're talking the Diamondbacks, the Pirates, the Cardinals, the Giants, the Reds, the Cubs, the Padres, all fighting for a wild card spot, all separated by 3 games. So that's the interesting part. Same thing in the NFL. If you go 8-9, you could end up with a wild card spot. If you're 3 or 4 games under 500 in basketball, you're going to make one of the. Now there's 10 teams that they're doing. So why not just put all teams in and just play a 1-game, you know, elimination and go from there? But would you want the Boston Celtics playing the Orlando Magic with the best record versus the worst record? So and this, look, it's more than just this. We know what is it about? It's creating revenue and it's creating dollars for all 4 sports. We'll talk a little bit more, but attendance is up 14% at the baseball stadiums and watching it on TV. So our viewership is up 14%, and then it's up 9%. As the new rules made the game, you know, where it's cut it back to like 2 hours and 30 minutes, and it's more entertaining for people.
Right.
I actually was at the game the other night, and before we go off, and I was talking to some fans that were in the front row in front of me, and we were talking, and both it was a husband and wife and their 4 kids, and the dad said, I don't even like baseball, but my 3 kids, 4 children, 3 girls that love baseball, and the boy likes basketball, and they just said it was something to do on a Tuesday night. So he said, I don't even like the game of baseball. My son's teaching me about the game. So they came to the stadium to watch the game. So that's interesting how it suddenly has changed. I mean, we know during spring training time, you would have to say at least 20 to 25% of the people don't even care about baseball. It's just going out and enjoying the nice weather, drinking a beer, and taking a nap on the grass. Now it's kind of shifted a little bit to actually Major League Baseball. We know in San Diego, that picnic area, they pack 10,000 people and they don't care about the game. But what is it doing? It's creating more revenue for the teams.
Yeah, exactly. And I just want to let everybody know that today, because of some things that I have going on here with an illness, and I'll say in the family, we'll be cut to about a 45-minute show today. So. Jim, I just wanted to let you know that we'll cut off.
He's dealing with a lower body injury, so we're going to reference a hockey talk for you. So lower body.
Exactly. But what's next? What's next in our hit parade? We've got so much.
Yeah, well, we were talking about the Mavs and the Celtics are in the finals, and you know, fans out here want the Celtics to win.
Are you watching it? Can you ask me that question?
No,
okay.
I'm not.
You asked
I'm
me.
not
I told you
it.
no.
And if I had to pick somebody, I want the Mavericks to win. I'm not a Boston Celtics fan. Ever since the 75-76 finals when they beat the Suns, I've never been a Boston Celtics fan. I want the Mavericks to win. Everybody wants.
Mark Cuban sold that team, didn't he?
Yeah, he did.
He doesn't own it anymore.
No, but I would still be happy that Jason Kidd. Let's So for me, I'm all for the Mavericks. Now out here, um, everybody because of Luka Doncic. Well, let me tell you something, and Bob's going to allow me to go off on a little bit of a rant. So we had a
I am.
chance.
Wait a second. I am.
Yes, it's
Okay.
time for me to
Then
do my
then go
little
ahead. Then
rant.
go ahead.
So
Yeah.
we had a chance to take Luka Doncic back in the 2018 draft. Anonymous NBA executives said that DeAndre Ayton was too soft to play in the NBA, and I agreed with him. I was doing a radio show here locally and on Saturday, and we had a lot of people calling in and just ripping me because I'm a ASU homer. Yes, I
Right.
am an ASU
Hey,
homer.
wait a
It
second.
had,
Wait a second. Look what I'm wearing
look
today.
at that. Yeah, there you go. See, you're talking about homer. It had nothing to do with DeAndre Ayton going to U of A. When you would watch him play against the bigger centers or somebody that was really aggressive on defense, they pushed him out of the way. He was very soft. I understand that the Suns wanted to take him because it was going to put fans in the stands. The Suns, Robert Sarver was the owner, and they were coming off pathetic seasons. I wanted Luka Doncic. The Suns today still need a playmaking guard. Granted, we had, Chris Paul, and he got us to the finals. Look at that. You had an aging Chris Paul and a guard, and what did he do? He took us to the finals. This goes back to 1984, and I'm going to let you chime in a little bit as well. This is when the Portland Trailblazers took Sam Bowie over Michael Jordan. I don't know if I want to go that far. DeAndre Ayton tends to show up when there's no center and teams aren't that good. So is he a bust? I don't know if he's really considered, but he's a bust for the Phoenix Suns. But we had a chance to take him when we chose to go with Ayton. And what did we do? Now we kind of run Ayton out of town. But I want to ask you, going back a little bit, you're
Mhm.
going back to the Chicago Bulls. And if you go back to the 1984 draft, Akeem Olajuwon was the number one pick. The Bulls were looking at taking a center, and I'm going to let you go back. I'm going to go back a little bit. Wallace Bryant, Dave Corzine, Steve Johnson, and Juwan Oldham were the centers on the Bulls basketball team that went 27-55. I'm looking at old records. The Bulls were going to take Sam Bowie.
Mhm.
That was the number two pick was going to be, or they thought that either Sam Perkins, maybe even Charles Barkley was going to go, or Michael Jordan was going to go to the Portland Trailblazers, and then they were going to take the next round, go around. They were going to have Sam Bowie as the third pick. Do you remember that? And then the Trailblazers took Bowie, and the Bulls went with Jordan.
Mm.
Who the heck is Wallace Bryant and Dave Corzine? That was a bad Bulls team, and they said in order for them to
I do remember
become
the name
winners,
of Dave. I do remember the name of Dave
Dave
Corzine.
Corzine was a serviceable player. He wasn't nothing fancy. Juwan Oldham, his claim to fame was getting into it with Manute Bol in a fight. But if you remember, and I wanted to go back, that was a bad Bulls team. Kevin Lockery was the coach. They won 27 games, and they kept saying, "We want a center. We want a center. We know the Rockets are going to get Akeem Olajuwon." They were looking at either Sam Perkins or Sam Bowie, and then the Trailblazers took Sam Bowie, and they went with Michael Jordan. Michael Jordan was, I can't think of the word, and you know more than I do. Akeem Olajuwon, was he a better college player, or was he just a better fit for the Rockets at the time? And then the Bulls took Michael Jordan.
I think a better fit. Yeah, at that time.
So
And
do
and was Michael Jordan really a surprise per se? I mean, he was a good college basketball player, right? But he turned into probably, I don't know, I guess in my best basketball player to ever play. Him and Bird,
right
I believe, are up there as far as I'm concerned. Um, but
when
was
they
Jo-
took
was
him.
Jo- was Jordan a surprise? Was he a surprise? The way that, I mean, this guy just elevated his game even more when he turned pro.
Right, and they won 10 games. I think they won 38 the next year, and then they blew out Kevin Lockery. And I was looking at old Chicago stories on the paper and everything. They were pretty upset when they got rid of him. They really thought Lockery was the next, and they brought in Stan Albeck. Do you remember Stan Albeck? Jerry Krause brought in Stan Albeck, and they actually I think lost 8 more games. Then they blew him out after a year, and then came Doug Collins, and that's really Jordan. Is what was it? I know he was good his rookie year in the second year. It's really the third year under Doug Collins when he really took off. Third and fourth year with Doug Collins when he really took off. But you being in Chicago, do you remember that they actually really wanted to draft Sam Perkins? I know it was a toss-up. They knew they weren't getting Elijah Wan, and then the next
I,
pick was it was going to be Perkins, maybe even Charles Barkley and Michael Jordan.
right.
And then when I can't who's the guy that used to smoke the cigar. They used to do a sports talk show, and he always had the voice that went like
Oh,
this. Yeah,
yeah,
you know,
Gleason.
yeah, that's it. And he said that they could go with Sam Bowie, and they are just a power forward away from getting into the playoffs. And there comes Michael Jordan. So I just isn't that amazing that you go back? So, but anonymous NBA player executive said taking Ayton over Doncic might be as bad as when the Trailblazers took Sam Bowie. You know, you feel bad for Sam Bowie because he was a serviceable player for, the Portland Trailblazers. He broke his leg and had a hard time, but you ended up taking the next guy, Michael Jordan, who's considered, if not the greatest basketball player, definitely one of the top three.
Yeah.
So, but interesting. But I don't know if I really want to go with that far. But the Suns had a chance. They did. They had a chance to take Luka Doncic, and they chose Ayton, and he had one decent season that got him to the championship. And we kind of lost him. He didn't appear. He and Monty Williams kind of got into it, and now he's gone. So that's my little rant. I know everybody wants to see the Celtics win. No, I'm completely opposite. I want the Mavericks to win.
Yeah. Yeah, I'd like to see the Mavericks win. I think the Celtics have enough championships in their lifetime. I
Yeah,
was tired of watching them all those years, winning. I mean, I don't even know how many that. To me, it reminds me of Bloom's Yankees, right?
right.
They've won what 26 or 27 World Series,
27. Yeah.
something like that, and you know, I, I might want to see them get into it this year. I mean, they've got a really good team.
Yankees.
Um,
Yeah.
it would. I'd like to see a slugfest between the Dodgers and the Yankees in a World Series, and
Well, and it's interesting that you brought that up because yesterday the Dodgers and the Yankees they played their game in London yesterday, and 11 innings, 10 innings it was 0-0, and then the Dodgers scored 2 runs in the top of the 11th, and then the Yankees got one below in the bottom of the 11th, but they ended up losing 2-1, and 48,000 people to watch that game.
yeah,
And
it sounds like a sellout at Chase Field.
so, yeah. So that was, the only disappointing part of that, the London, the London series, you had the Phillies and the Mets. Um, you're doing they're going, and, similar to the Cubs and the Cardinals and everything. The game should be on. Now, I believe today's game will be on, free TV. Um,
Yeah.
the Mets Phillies game, which should draw quite well. But that was an interesting uh, matchup yesterday between the Dodgers and the Mets. I'm sorry, the Dodgers and the Yankees, and is that going to be what we're looking at for a World Series? And the Yankees, they're rolling right now, and The Phillies, I still like the Phillies. At the beginning of the year, I thought the Phillies and the Yankees had a really good chance to go to the World Series. I think the Dodgers have okay pitching, but I think the Phillies pitching is a lot better. That would be an interesting series. And let's toss it in right now. Milwaukee Brewers, 11 games above 500. Former Sun Devil coach Pat Murphy has got this team believing in themselves, trading away your best pitcher and another pitcher on the IL. He's finding a way to make these guys win. And he's doing it the old-fashioned way with timely hitting, and it's just I love to see that. I love to see that with Pat Murphy.
And they have a pretty speedy team as well. I mean, they're pretty fast, and
Yeah,
um, I think it. We talked about the Cubs this year, and we talk about it. I know we'll still talk about them, but right now they stink, and they've been horrible ever since basically May 1st. I mean, they went through May. I think they were. Correct me if I'm wrong. Weren't they like 10 games over 500 or
I,
something like that? There were a number of. Let's just say they were a number of games above 500, and then
right.
they come out and they're below 500. They can't hit. Uh, they're they're just awful, and they're going to have a tough time. I think catching Milwaukee this year.
Yeah, I think they said that the Cubs are 7-16 since they were above 500. Their last 23 games, they're either 7-16. And I had the Cubs in a wild card position and maybe possibly even winning the division. I thought they would win the division,
And you said
and
they're still in a wild card
they're
position.
still
That's
they would
crazy.
be in the wild card. The thing with the Cubs is they got to start hitting the baseball. Their pitching has held them team up. They got to start hitting that baseball, and I just they're swinging at bad pitches, and they're hitting 135 with runners in scoring position. With with two outs and runners in scoring position, they're batting 115. That's one hit in every 10. 1 for 10 is 100. So they're
Right.
basically like, yeah. So the hitting has got to get going for the Cubs. That's
Yeah.
it's interesting. Um, I know you don't follow the White Sox, but the White Sox
Oh,
they're just
I
they're
watch. I actually do watch the White Sox and follow them because they're so bad. As a matter of fact, it's kind of funny. Last night there were like two errors in a row by the pitcher, and that put Boston up by 2-1. The White Sox did wind up winning the game, so but the Boston commentators made the comment after the two errors in a row by the pitcher is that's what bad teams look like,
right.
and
That's it.
uh, and I was glad then to see that Boston did lose because you know what, they're not that good either.
No,
But the
and
White Sox are terrible. They
yeah,
aren't the White Sox aren't even a good AAA team.
no, are they worse than the Diamondbacks were a few years ago when they won 52 games and the Oakland A's when they won 50 games? And,
Oh,
you
they're
feel bad because
they're the
Pedro
worst.
Grifol,
They're the worst
manager,
team I've yeah, they're the worst team I've seen in a long time. And I saw them in spring training and I said this is the worst team I've ever seen. And I saw them in spring training like the last week of before the season broke and I'm going, man, they are horrible. And
yeah,
I was right. I mean, what's their record? I mean,
they're
what have they won? 16 games maybe?
16 games. Yeah,
And they've lost what? 40?
16 and 40, 48. So they're 16 and 48. So that's
16 and
32 games. So at the rate that they're going, they're going to win a four. They'll finish the season right now. You figure they'll be 46 wins and 116 losses. People were actually talking about them winning 42 games and losing 120. So Chris Getz, the senior VP and GM, he's just lost. Their leading hitter was Tommy Pham hitting 280, and they signed him. And now he's on the 10-day IL, and he's been very outspoken. He'll fight anybody. But then you
yeah.
figure the regular, so he's out. Corey Lee is their next regular. He's their catcher. He's hitting 245. Andrew Vaughn, who they really thought was going to have a decent season, he's got 6 home runs, hitting 217. The White Sox, they're just a bad team. Now, on the funny side of them, their starting pitcher, they have 2 pitchers that are actually above 500. Garrett Crochet 6-5, and Eric Betty 4-1. But then you got Chris Flexen, Michael Soroka, Nick Nassertini 0-6, 0-5, 0-3, Mike Clevenger, and then their closer got 5 saves. He's 1-6. But you're right. Yeah. It's a bad.
What's that guy's name? Is it Crochet or Croquet or whatever?
I've heard him pronounce it Garrett Crochet.
Okay.
But then I've also heard it.
Believe it or not, if he was with a good team, I wouldn't be surprised if this guy would be 7-0 or whatever. I mean, to me, he's that good. He is a good pitcher, and he is not going to be on that team. Believe me, some team's going to a trade deadline. They're going to Luis Roberts. I hear that the White Sox are entertaining all offers for him. Right. They're just going to become that minor league team. And what's so funny? You know what's the funniest thing right now? Is they're actually drawing crowds to see the White Sox.
They are drawing. Their attendance is up a little bit, but they're still averaging. They're still toward the bottom, which I wanted to bring in. They said everybody is available, which makes me want to circle back around to the Arizona Diamondbacks. The Diamondbacks have currently right now Eduardo Rodriguez, Merrill Kelly, Zach Gallen, Blake Walston was just placed on the IL, and if you throw in Kyle Nelson, that is 5 starting pitchers that are on the IL. You and I were joking around 2 weeks ago that it's possible that they could look at Zach Greinke. Do you go out and do you talk to the Chicago White Sox and do you offer up now? You got to do it now because the trade deadline, there's going to be a lot of teams that are going to want a lot. Now I think is probably the time you go out and maybe offer a couple of your prospects to see if you can get Garrett Shea to come to the Arizona Diamondbacks. Because if you wait another month as you get closer to the trade deadline, the White Sox are going to ask for everything. Maybe they're going to ask for an Andrew Jones. Maybe they're going to ask for a Davidson De Los Santos. Though we saw the Guardians, returned him. But now is when you probably want to pull the trade. Yeah, you may have to give up a Blake Walston. Currently he's on the IL. You may have to give up a Tommy Troy. So do you pull a trade in the next couple of weeks to get yourself a starting pitcher? When is Merrill Kelly coming back? They say after the All-Star break. When is Zach Gallen coming back? They don't know. I was going to ask you this, and I'll let you chime in on this. What do you do with Jordan Montgomery? He was booed after giving up a grand slam to Wilmer Flores and gave up 6 runs, and he lasted 3 innings. I'll let you chime in, but I think Jordan Montgomery is going to be okay.
Yeah, I think
give him another start and let him see what he's going to go through. But who do you have that is going to be consistent on that starting staff if these guys aren't going to come back?
Yeah, I think you're right. They need to make some moves. They need to make some moves now. They need to shake the team up. One way to do that, granted, they do need starting pitching right now because everybody's hurt. Montgomery's going to be fine. There's only one person to blame for Montgomery being behind the 8 ball this year, and that's Scott Boras.
Scott Boras.
And the guy didn't have a spring training, and it's just it's late. I blame Boras for just about every one of his prospects. He's become known as the hard ass over the years, and I think the general managers are just fed up with him, and they're just saying screw it. We don't want to deal with you. And that I think Jordan Montgomery wasn't Jordan Montgomery one of firing him?
Yeah, he ended up getting rid of him.
Yeah.
And so you're starting to see people are, and isn't let me see, guess who's a free agent next year? Zach Gallen, and guess who his agent is?
Is it Boris?
Yeah, Scott Boras. Yeah.
Well,
So he has one more year.
if he is, I don't expect Zach Gallen back with the Diamondbacks. I think
Yeah.
he'll
Well,
probably, you
he
know, he'll wind up going to somewhere like the Dodgers or the Yankees.
yeah, they avoided arbitration ahead of the deadline way back in what was it January, middle of January, February, when he signed settling for $10 million for the 2024 season. Um, Zach Gallen. So his agent
Yeah,
he has one more year of eligibility before he becomes a free agent after 2025. So they do have the control. But now is the time you want to be talking to Zach Gallen just to see what's out there, right? Or has he already said he doesn't want to talk during the season? Because I'm with you. You better figure something out. And he'll be 30 when he reaches free agency after the 25 season, which still gives him a good few years to be a pitcher. But do you start working out something right now, even when he's injured?
well, the the thing is, he's had a over these few years, hasn't he? He's been
Yeah.
out. I mean, this year, of course, he's been out what, twice? Am
Yeah.
I right on that? And the Diamondbacks have a number of players that have been out, right? I still want to know, forget the pitching for a second. What's with Alec Thomas? I thought he had
Yeah.
a regular old hamstring injury. Is it more than that? Was it a tear?
Yeah, I'm sorry, because he was to begin a rehab assignment last week, and he didn't do it. We were supposed to see him out here at the rookie leagues, and I was going to go out there and see him, the complex league. I'll call it the rookie leagues. And all of a sudden, they put that on hold, and there's been no update on him. Geraldo Perdomo is to come back, which makes it interesting. What are you going to do with Blaze Alexander and Kevin Newman? One of them's going to have to move to third base. Do you move Perdomo to third base? Alexander's been playing some third base. I'm not a fan of Blaze Alexander at third base.
And who are you going to drop down to the when they reactivate Perdomo?
Yeah, uh, uh, everybody wants to DFA Eugenio Suarez. I still think his bat is going to come around. And you and I were talking offline. Alec Thomas, why not? I'm sorry. Take that back. Corbin Carroll. Why not send him down? Why not send him down?
I think
Jake McCarthy played center field the other day, so you could have Pavin Smith playing right field, Jake McCarthy in center field, and Lourdes Gurriel could be. And if something happens and you need it, one of them needs a day off for work. Ketel Marte still plays center field.
Yeah.
So if you have to move Marte out there, then you could have Alexander at second, Perdomo at short, Suarez at third, or you could have Perdomo at third, Alexander at short. So you could do something there. So, but no, I'm with you. Where is Alec Thomas? What about Eugenio Suarez? Do you think it's time that they DFA'd him? I don't. I know you paid a lot of money for him. He's a great guy in the locker room. I know having a great guy in the locker room doesn't get you wins on the field. He had a home run the other day. So do you give him a little bit more time and before you decide to pull the DFA on him? For me, it's more than just him. Let's talk about it now. Gabby Moreno, Lourdes Gurriel, and even Ketel Marte got to get it going. I know you had that hitting streak, but you hit 278 during that hitting streak. It's one of the lowest batting average, if not the lowest batting average during the hitting streak. Christian Walker can't do it all.
Yeah. I don't know. I've been keeping my eye on the Diamondbacks, but I hate to say it, but I don't them as closely as I used to when I literally was there every day and in the mix per se. So I mean, I want to see the team do good only for one reason, is because I like the manager.
Yeah.
That's it,
Well,
right? I mean, I still think Torrey is a great manager. Um, last year was last year, but this guy's gone through a 110 loss season, right? He comes back. He seems to be the same guy, even though it's tearing him up inside. I don't even know what they did last night. I didn't even look.
They lost. They lost 10-3. They
No, they got crushed last night, and then they won
yeah,
tonight.
Humberto Castellanos, who it's a great story. You know, the Diamondbacks signed him. Then he had to have Tommy John surgery. He came up. He did give up 5 runs. It was good to see him back there. They were down 3-0, and they had men on base in a couple of different innings to get, and they just couldn't get it through. So yeah, so they puts them 4 games under 500. They have 2 games left against the Padres today and tomorrow. Then they come home to play the Angels and the White Sox. So the next 8 games, this team has to, for me, they have to find a way to be at least 5-3. I would prefer 6-2, because then you go out to the Nationals for 3 games, and you'd like to see them win maybe 2 games against the Nationals. So you're looking at the next 10 games before you play the Phillies. So the next 13 games, this team has to find a way to be at least 8-5. I would prefer 9-4 to see if they're really going to be contenders. If they, stick around 2-3 games under 500 at the All-Star break, you have to make a decision if this team is going to be, if they're going to be sellers. And we talked about this before. Paul Sewald would probably be gone. Somebody will definitely take a Ryan Thompson. Somebody will definitely take a Eugenio Suarez. So those are the 3 guys that you have to look at. And Tucker Barnhart, I'm throwing him there because somebody will always take a seasoned veteran catcher that has been through to go. But I still think it's a little early. But right up until the All-Star break, if this team is still at least at 500 the All-Star break, I still believe it. If they're 4 or 5 games under 500, to me, I think it's over with. Now, you can get on a hot streak. So we'll see how it works out. So
Final thoughts for today.
Well, I really want to see the Diamondbacks today. I really want to see them go out and have a good game. They really need to win the game today to really set it up for tomorrow. I'd like to see both games, to win both, and then come home and play a bad Angels and a bad White Sox team. They've got to find a way to sweep the White Sox. I'm sorry. The hitting has got to take over against a terrible White Sox pitching staff.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, it's been fun. It's been a quick 45 minutes here, and we will see you next week. We will be on for an hour then next Saturday. So hopefully everybody enjoy the show, and you should still be able to see this on YouTube all week long.
All right. Signing off, everyone. Have a good